Okay, good morning. So today's topic is about ethnography again, but this time we focus on data collection, how you collect data when you are in the field, right? So let me just share my screen. Okay. Right, so we're going to talk about ethnography and focusing on data collection today. You can see the picture here. I just took this picture early this year in March 2023. Do you all find anything interesting about the costume or the general attire of the indigenous people? Okay, if you have something in mind that's interesting about this photo, please, you can state it on the chat. Okay, let me just continue. Right, so one of the most important things that we need to do when we are going into the field is actually managing our data. This is one of the crucial things that we need to really be careful, we take care of. So we need to be quite organized and systematic in the way we manage all the data that we will collect in fieldwork. Okay, so one of the main components of fieldwork is actually gathering data. So the researcher must find an efficient way to organize and manage all their data. So everyone will have their own way of managing the data. So I can just give you some ideas on how other researchers or I manage my data, but eventually you will have to sort of find your own ways of managing your data. Right, so what is data in the field? So data can be in the form that is written, and is also recorded, especially for ethnographers. You will actually record you will have a lot of recorded materials. So let's look at written materials. So for written materials, we have things called field notes, and we also have your daily journal. For recording, you will have audio recording, so that is more to sound recording or the music or sounds in the environment. And then there is also the visual recording, which is where you actually see people moving, okay, the video recordings. And the other type of recording that you will also have are just images and images of photographs. So these are all very important for you when you start to analyze your data. So you must first learn how to manage your data. Right, so when you general data, when you go into the field, it's very important actually to gather very detailed information, right? Because you will never know what you need when you are sort of doing your writing. You may need more information than you think you needed. Okay, so it's good to collect as much information as possible about, for example, your interviewees. Okay, so when you interview someone, be sure that you gather data such as their full name. So when you start interviewing, please ask them for their full name. Okay, what age, if they are okay to review the age. What kind of occupation, what do they work as? Gender, of course, you don't ask, but at least you put it down. What is their status, title, what is their education, what is their expertise? Okay, some of these things that you don't really have to ask, you can just take down informally after the interview. Okay, so for name, actually it's very important to get the informant's name properly. So sometimes when they tell you orally, you don't really know. So it's best that you can take a picture of their ID, their identity card. Then they will give you really their correct name, which is in their identity card. Okay, because some of them, they will give you their short name, or they give you the name that their friends always call them. Okay, so if you can take a photo of their ID. Okay, so then the place where you interview the person, or the place where you listen to the music or the concert performance is also very important. Take detailed notes. For example, which building you interviewed the music went on, which garden was the music, what was the location, Okay, is it in a park? Is it in a concert hall, a clubhouse, cabaret, bar, karaoke lounge? So take the names of these places and which town, which city, which state, which country. Okay, and now we have access to Google location. It's also good to actually you can grasp the Google location. Okay, because sometimes when we go to certain remote areas, maybe we don't know how to find the way back to that area again. Okay, now you have Google location, it's okay, but in the old days, you keep getting lost, keep trying to find your way back to that remote location. Okay, so this is general data. Okay, so then there's this thing called the metadata. So when you're in the field, you should gather metadata. So these are like information, description, and context of the data. So you should have a proper organization of metadata, which is pertinent to the search of specific information when one is conducting data analysis. So if you do have a very good organization system, when you are processing your data or when you're analyzing your data later, you won't be like scrambling and searching for all the information that you need. Because sometimes searching for information will take you up for hours because you do not know where you put the information, or you forgot which location was it that I interviewed that person, or you say, oh, what date did I interview that person? So all these things are very important. So if you can keep your data organized, it will really help you when you're starting to write your thesis or analyze the data, right? So materials should be clearly labeled, numbered, and dated. Okay? A researcher should create a template known as a log sheet to organize your data. Here later, I'll show you some examples what are log sheets. Actually, it's very funny that when I went into the field, I didn't really learn so much of this. So it's only now that I'm looking back at all this written information that I think, oh, I should have done that. Okay. So anyway, organized information will save you a lot of time when you're searching for a specific photo. Okay, so let's say you are preparing for a presentation at a conference. Then when you're preparing, then suddenly you feel like, oh, I need that specific photo to show what I need. But you have tons of photos, you know, in your external hard drive, in your phone camera, in your Google Drive, or wherever you put your information, and you just take so long to find that specific photo you want, right? Okay, sometimes interview quotes. Sometimes when you're writing your thesis, you figure out, yeah, that person said that thing. It's very important to what I need to quote to support my theory. Then you will have you need to like find where is it that information about the quote. Okay, so this is where transcribing your interviews are very important. Don't just interview without transcribing. After you interview, 1 or 2 days later, you should make sure you transcribe your data. Because if not, the more you accumulate, the more work you will have. And transcription is a very difficult job, right? I think if you interview the person for 1 hour, you will take 5 hours to transcribe the information, right? So for transcription, we hope that we can get a transcription software that will, you just play the recorder and then it will transcribe whatever you have interviewed. There are some softwares that can do it, but it's not really accurate. Okay, later we'll talk about it anyway. Right, so yeah, so organizing data. So metadata is also very important if you wish to archive your material to a website. Okay, donate them to the museum or streamline them online. So metadata is important. Let's say one day you want to donate your data to the museum or to an archive online. They will ask you for the metadata. What is the details of the photo that you are giving us? They want some metadata. Okay. So here is an example of metadata, but this is a very old example. Okay, you can modify And it's actually very, very detailed. You don't necessarily have to follow this, but you can modify to your own. So project code 2023 in Bali. Okay, what is the title? It was a music festival held on the 9th of May, 2023. And the people you interviewed, who was the interviewer, who was the interviewee, what is the place, what is the date that it took place, and even the description of the files that you have. One audio file, WAV format in 55 minutes, one video file, digital sound, color, MP4, 55 minutes. But to tell the truth, I don't get as detailed as this, right? But this is just some sample that I got from the book. Language of the conversation is in Hokkien. Okay, here is also an example of a keyword data sheet. But again, this is from a very old book. Okay, these are for researchers who went into the field like 30, 40 years ago. So they have detailed information on who are the people they interview, where is the interview, in which take was the interview, where was it, and then the collector, circumstance of interview, name of the informant, address, who are the other people present at the interview, place and date of birth, family information, size of family, right? So this is just an example. You need to create your own keyword data sheet, okay? And then just give it a numbering so that you are very easy to trace back all your keyword data. Okay, then there are also examples for still photography log. So if you collect many photos, you should try to like organize them. But seriously, I think it's very hard today. This is probably something in the old days where you don't take that many photos and you actually have to like go to the shop and process your photos. Okay, then maybe you have like one roll of film, you only have like 30 photos. But today we have thousands, millions, hundreds of photos in our iPhone. It would be hard to actually organize them. So I think later we can talk about ways of how we can actually organize our photos, because today is a different generation. It's very, we can take 1,000 photos, we can delete them all at the same time. Okay, so maybe this is something that we want to talk about, how we actually organize our photos. And of course, if you have audio and video recording, you should differentiate it, because sometimes you're looking for a photo, sometimes you're actually looking for a video, sometimes you're looking for just the audio recording. Okay, so this is an example from very old example. So, but in reality, I want to show you what I have. I have too much data. I can't even organize my photos. So it's like, look at, when I open up my file, I just like have this field work like Mary wedding. I have the dates and everything is plugged into that file. Okay, so then even the video and all the photos are plugged into that file. And I really don't have time to like go one by one to label all these photos. Okay, so it becomes like this. But then today, when I was searching for some photos to actually to show in my lecture, that's when the problem comes lah. Okay, so it's like I need that specific video. I remember it in my head, but I do not know where is that video. So now when I start searching, I just spend a lot of time searching for the video that I want to show you. But then when I'm searching, I start labeling it now, like catching drunken guy, and then like a tajo. So I start labeling now. But I mean, if I had been able to label it previously, then maybe I might not find it that hard to organize to find the recording. Okay, but in reality, it's like I really have too much data, because I also do vlogging. So when you're doing vlogging, you actually have a lot of videos. Okay, let's go to this thing called field notes. So what are field notes? Field notes are notes that you take when you go to the field. Okay, so when you're going, let's say, to a concert hall, or to a festival, you should carry some kind of, I would say, a small notebook. Okay, even you think it's outdated, you just want to use your phone and type into your phone. I think notebooks are very good for quick data, something you want to just jot down really quickly, something you saw and you think is very interesting, or maybe name of a person or something that you can quickly jot down. Actually, having a small booklet is very useful. Okay, of course, the modern technology, people think that, yeah, we just got our phone, we can just type into the notes. But still, I think the small book is still good. Okay, so anything we observe, hear, and smell can be considered data. But how do we turn experience into data? One must be review, analyze, and document it. Okay, so when you go into the field, right, you will experience so many things in the field. But then when you come back, you are actually translating all that whole experience into writing. So once you translate that whole experience into writing, it changes. Okay, because you may not document everything. It's your perspective of what is important that you actually document. So if another researcher goes into the same concert that you attended, the researcher may be documenting different details based on what he or she thinks is important to their research. Okay, so even if the experience is the same, the perception of each researcher will differ when we translate it into writing. Okay? So documenting is a general term for gathering data. Collecting is a general term for gathering items. Okay, so fieldworks are used for recording all field notes. Okay, field notes are used for recording all fieldwork activities, whether it is informal interaction or an important event or a scheduled interview. Okay, so you can use field notes at any time. Okay, even if it's a formal event, informal event, and then especially when it is something that happens out of the norms, and you think it's so important that you need to take note. Field notes are actually very good. So it's important to set up a system of field notes before first foray. So have a notebook, computer to document it into files. Okay, so writing ethnographic keywords. So jottings, okay, jottings can be just scratch notes, okay, and then abbreviated words, short forms, and short phrases that help you to remember something. So when you're in the field, sometimes you can't write down everything, so you just have some notes to help you to remember what you saw in the field. Okay, so researchers should always carry a notebook to catch any sudden interesting phenomenon that occurs, to record your observations and thoughts in the field. Okay, sometimes when you observe something, you're suddenly thinking of something when you're looking at a thing. So you should try to take down that note in your notebook. Okay, then these notes can be written into full field notes or a daily journal after the researcher returns to the table. So all these field notes, when you go back to your home or go back to your table, then is where you translate all these into full field notes. Okay, so you still need to, after you experience the concert, you still need to go back and quickly write down whatever you thought about, whatever happened during the concert. Okay, because your daily journal is really very important for ethnography. Okay, writing ethnographic keywords. Although your mobile phone is accessible, bear in mind batteries and memory can run out in the middle of something important. Okay, so after fieldwork, the researcher should ideally write out the details of what happened in the field. This comprehensive write-up is called field notes. Okay, so those scratch notes and those jotting and those things, those are not really fieldwork. Field notes. When you come back and actually write down all your experience, those are called field notes. Okay, so Emerson et al. States that the description that results must makes sense as a logical, sensible series of incidences and experiences, and if only to an audience made up of the field worker, even if only to an audience made up of the field worker herself. Okay, so let's go on. Field notes. Okay, so the goal of field notes is to write down concrete details and the field workers' thinking, rather than interesting to read descriptions of social life. So when we are going into the field, the goal is actually to get detailed information, not to like write something like a novel or wow, that's so interesting. Then I want to write down all these things from my novel. Okay, the goal is actually to get as much detail as we want. So writing notes is a highly interactive process of cultural translation. Your writing is based on your selection of the account that occurred from your own lenses. So here again, when you go into the field and write, it is actually you choosing what you want to write, what you think is important, and your perspective of what you saw. Okay, so it's still selective. It is advised to avoid flowery description of an event or to create assumptions of the situation. So do not write too much artistic writing, creative writing. You are not writing a novel. You just want to get as much details as you want. Okay, even in academic writing, we try not to, we actually do not write, we do not use flowery writing. Academic writing is very clear and very direct. So your aim is to document as much detail as you can in order to relay the situation as closely to the original as possible. Okay, now I can show you some of the examples from my field notes. I actually went back to search how I documented my data, and I actually documented my data. So here is the way I documented it. So sorry, it's kind of like really small. So I actually have like day, time, okay, what was the event, who were the people in the participating, and then this is something else about the module, whatever here. Okay, anyway, so these things are important because sometimes when you go to the field, you go so many times to the field, then sometimes you're figuring out which visit was it, you know, is it the first, second, third, or fourth visit that I experienced that event. Okay, so you need to, if you're very organized, what day you went, what is this your first trip, second trip, or third trip, that will actually help you in your writing. Okay, I actually this was very helpful, actually getting very organized. Okay, so after I have a very summarized kind of notes, because sometimes I just need like detailed data. Okay, I do not need the full data of what happened, but I just want to see like one whole scroll down, how many times I went to the field, what were the dates I went to the field, and maybe a short description of what actually happened in the field. So this is like my summarized data already. Okay, and then I do have a like full data. I actually wrote down whatever happened during in the field, like what I experienced. So I'm sorry, it's so small here, I can't really read it. So for example, here I took note of how many people attended the project. So these were the number of children that attended the project, their full names, their age. Okay, and then I started observing how the indigenous teacher was teaching the children. So I said, teacher, use visual. Alang shows the children which holes to press on the flute while singing the pictures using vocables such as deng and la, room setting. So all these things I actually notated in detail what happened in the teaching process. Okay, so Yeah, if you're an observer, these are things that you need to take note of. So when you're in the field, you can take short notes, but when you go home, you need to quickly write out the full thing. Okay? And you need to do it as soon as possible because you will forget. Okay, so research settings. Natural setting is the social context in which the folklore functions in society. This setting may be highly formal. Okay, so you could be going to a very formal event that is very organized and very structured and very scheduled. Okay, such as rites of passages, like the birth of a child, the ritual for puberty, a wedding ritual, or funeral. So these are very quite formal events, and they have a certain format. Okay, they already have a format. For example, a church, they already have a certain format of presentation. Okay, so these are formal events. So natural setting can also be semi-formal. Okay, for example, those in which folklore performance or statement is expected but not required, such as lullaby for baby to sleep. Okay, so maybe you are attending a birthday of a child, or after 1 month in Chinese celebrations, they always they have a celebration for the baby after 1 month, where you have the red eggs, right? So that kind of event, maybe you might suddenly hear a lullaby for a baby. The mother might suddenly, sing a lullaby to allow the child to sleep. Okay, these are semi-formal. Okay, then you also have informal contexts where those in which such performance is not required, is unscheduled, and usually unexpected, such as dancing occurring during tea breaks. So you may be in the field and suddenly something, you don't expect something to happen. And then suddenly you see people start dancing or they start playing music. So these are kind of unexpected events, and these are important events for you to document. Okay, so these are called like informal contexts. Okay. So most researchers try to observe musicians in their natural context. See, we try to go when they are having rehearsal, we go when they're having a concert, okay? Without having planned for the benefit of the field worker. So it's not purposely planned for you. Okay, we try to observe the musicians in very natural setting. We try not to ask them to, can you just do this ritual for me? Because I want to record it. Okay, and then with little interference as possible from the researcher. Okay, however, it is inevitable that the researcher's presence will change the natural context. Okay, so I was talking to one of my students yesterday. It's Gobin. Gobin says that, should I put the camera and record every rehearsal? Like some of the rehearsals are 1 to 2 hours. Because if I put the video there, then the performance will change. The musicians or the performers will feel like a bit embarrassed, shy, and their attitude toward the training will change. Yeah, that is totally true. So if you are putting a camera in front of your audience, they may not be as natural as you want them to be. Okay, so how do you we can discuss later on how do we want to negotiate this. Okay, actually we can discuss now. Let's discuss. Does anybody have issues, when you are in the field and you're doing recording, and then suddenly it's weird to put a camera in front of your interviewers? And how do you handle it? Maybe anyone wants to share? I'm sure some of you have experienced putting a camera or a recorder in front of your interviewee, and then suddenly it's like becomes weird. The situation becomes very awkward. Anyone wants to share or discuss this? I think we can discuss this. Okay, if you cannot, then start thinking about it. We will discuss this after during the Q&A session, right? So start thinking about awkward situations. Okay, so musicians also can suddenly become more motivated to perform for you, right? Wow, okay, so the camera is in front of me, so I'm gonna like do better than what I usually would, okay, in the presence of the researcher. Okay, then the thing is research setting. Researchers try to put themselves in situations where the musical activity is likely to occur. However, sometimes it is in the informal, unintended context that the researcher learns something more significant. Okay, so we think we want to report this ritual, so we're just going to go when the ritual occurs. And after that, I'm going home. You know, I don't really know. I recorded the ritual. I know the music. So yeah, just come when there's a ritual. Yeah, that's not really going to help you, because that may help you to describe the event. Like you can get descriptive information about, okay, this ritual happens, this music happens, they sing this song during the ritual, and then you can get a description. Yeah, you can get a description. You can write your thesis about the musical elements of the performance. But for the for PhD level, you need to go beyond describing the performance. You need to understand something deeper about how the performance and the humans interact. Okay. So it is actually in the informal, unintended context. Sometimes it is when during the times that you don't really know things that will happen, it suddenly happens, and you learn something very significant. So in ethnography, you need to be there as much as possible, not during just the rehearsal or during the performance. Okay, so conversations that occur while you're cooking, decorating, or weaving together with the implements may reveal to you stories that can help you piece the missing pieces in your understanding about certain perspective in your research. So if you are doing a research, let's say you want to understand the musician's inspiration or the composer's inspiration, okay, but you can interview them, but interview is very limited to what they can tell you at that particular point of time. But sometimes when you're in a very informal context, let's say you are helping the concert performance, decorating the hall, or you are helping them sell some booklets, then suddenly, you know, informal conversations can help you to understand the situation better. Yeah, okay. So a researcher should join musicians when they are socializing, rehearsing, dining. Okay, smoking and drinking is up to you, okay? But it is when this informal context is people start to really talk. They talk more than they talk to you when you interview them. All the stories will come out during all these informal information. So during these situations, the researcher has to be able to negotiate his or her limitations in participating in some of the activities, yet be able to be present enough to catch the informal conversation. Okay, so sometimes, you know, you don't want to join them smoking, of course, you don't want to drink, you know, you need to be able to, you need to check on yourself what you can do and what you cannot do. Okay, but try to be around when it's a little bit uncomfortable. You need to try to be around also if you can. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about this thing called induced settings. Induced settings It's like sometimes when you go to the field, you have limited time. Let's say you have 6 months to do your research. But then the festival that you want to see is not occurring, it's only occurring maybe like towards the end of your research time. Or you actually need to plan your time properly, okay? For example, some researchers may not have access to all the events that he or she would like to observe during the season or the time when the event is performed. For example, harvest festivals are performed during specific months of the year. Okay, so harvest is only like, during July, August, September. I think during the autumn period in different countries is different, right? So you can only see a harvest festival with music during that month, okay? Or naming or shaving of hair of babies. This one will depend on whether there are babies or not. If there are no babies, then you cannot record this. Healing ceremonies. Okay, healing ceremonies are also very random because when someone gets sick, they might suddenly need treatment. So these are very unplanned. Healing ceremonies are very unplanned. You never know when it will happen. Trance-induced ceremonies. So sometimes you really cannot catch the event. So you may need to ask for induced settings. You may need to ask for it to be performed for you, rather for it to happen in a natural context. Okay, because this is your limitation in terms of your time. Okay, so in this situation, the researcher may request for the performance of a ritual in an unnatural setting. So, but they try to make the setting as natural as they can, okay, for the dance and music to occur. Okay, this situation is sometimes required, especially when the researcher is limited by time and funding. Yeah, sometimes you may need to do that. Okay, so if you keep waiting, you may not catch the event. Okay, so although a performance can be created, it may lack the inspiration of an audience. So if you ask them to suddenly like perform in the context of a festival, but there are no audience, there are no participants, so it becomes unnatural. So how you can make the performance more natural is maybe invite your friends to attend that performance, so that it is like more natural. And there is an audience, so the performance is more natural. The musicians also play with more inspiration. Okay, so any induced settings will not be natural. Okay, the researcher should state that the recording and music were made from an induced setting. Okay, this is the induced setting. Okay, next. Observation. So observation seems very easy. Yeah, we just observe what's happening. Okay, but observation is an important strategy to understand the musical forms in their social context. Right? Observation requires much dedication and attention to details than really just experiencing a musical tradition. So imagine if you're going to attend a concert just as, just as a concert attendee, compared to you going to watch a concert to observe it and to actually write about it, totally different. Then you need so much more attention to detail if you are doing observation. Yeah, okay. So the researcher requires knowledge and history, background, cultural practices, and the musical elements of the tradition. So before you go observing, you need to already know the background of this performance. If you just go, maybe as a first timer is okay, pioneer experience. But if you really want to go to really understand what's happening, you need to already have quite a bit of knowledge. Okay, because they want to observe how music evolves, adapts, and changes to suit each different social cultural context, venue, or audience. Yeah, so you may need to have some prior knowledge to how this performance is. Okay, then only when you go to the another context, then you can tell the difference. Oh, this opera in this troupe is different from this troupe, or it was different 5 years ago, now it's different. So you need actually quite a bit of knowledge about the genre that you're investigating, so that you need to know what were the changes that are happening. Okay, so researchers need to be sensitive to the aesthetics, artistic or expressive performances, as well as to understand the environment that produces it. Okay, so environment, the place that is being performed is also very important, because the environment will create and stimulate a different type of performance. Okay, if you're performing to a concert in a concert hall, the music may be a bit different from you performing to in a field, or among big audience. The music can actually differ in different kind of venue and environment. Okay, so while we're on this, I certainly thought of something to share with you. Actually, I was discussing with a student about the 24 festive drums. Okay, let's just look at this to show you 24 festive drums. Let me see what I'm sharing. I'm sharing. Let's share again. Yeah, I need to optimize the sound here. Okay, so let's see. 24. Okay, so I'm going to show you 24 Jielingpu. This is a drum ensemble in Malaysia in, let's say, 20 years ago. Let's say 2001, 20 years ago. So we are looking at this. Okay, let's just look at this. Okay, so this is like 2001, that's about 20 over years ago. This was the competition 20 years ago. And let's compare it to what you see today. Okay. Okay, let's, so this is a trailer. Mm. Mm. Okay, this one. Okay. So this is a trailer. Okay. So, probably is different. So not this one. So maybe it's this one. I can't find the one that I saw the other day. Okay, never mind. I can't find it. But can I ask Gobin to find it for me afterwards? Then we can share it. Okay. Gobin, can you find the video that we saw? Maybe it's this one. I think it's this one. Yeah, so you can see from here they are wearing the costume is very different. They're actually wearing batik. Batik is a kind of cloth in Malaysia. So you know what happened 20 years ago, you can see the difference. Yeah, this one's still quite still talking about Chinese festivals. if you look at this one, if you know the Malay tradition, this is a Malay costume. Wearing a sash is actually a very Malay costume. Yeah, this one is telling the story of probably like a boat, a storm, a ship or something. Okay, so this is the most interesting one. You know, this is about, you know, their schoolboys in classroom. Yeah, they are actually, you know, talking about their experience in the classroom through the drums. Yeah, so you can see that previously they will never put their drum this way. It's always like, you know, just on like the 24, the lion dance, they will not move it this way. Yeah, then this one is quite interesting actually. This kind of movements is actually quite interesting. Yeah, so as a researcher, this is what you call your literature review. You also need to have knowledge on the, you know, the performance review, not just depending on the literature review. So you have an idea of what happened was, you know, the performance was like many years ago with what is happening today, so that you can now start to figure out why are these things happening? Why are these movements and these kind of costumes happening? What are the composers thinking? What are the musicians thinking? And this is what part of the, you know, the being a PhD is about, to try and theorize where these new ideas are coming from. Okay, so previous knowledge is also very important. That's what I want to say. And your performance review, okay, not just your literature review. For musicians, you need to have a knowledge of what happened before also. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, continue with observation. Extensive field notes are important to record details of observation. Observation is limited because it implies a single sensory perception, which is the visual, as the only way to gain insight to an aesthetic form in a social context. However, researchers experience life from multiple sensory perceptions, such as smell, taste, hear, and feel, both emotional and physical. So as a researcher, you don't just go and observe visually. You need to be observant about things that may actually influence performance. Things like smell. If you go to some of the the Pacific Island performances, having flowers and that kind of fragrance is very important for any festival or ritual. So that kind of fragrance somehow could influence performance. At the same time, also a lot of Pacific Islanders, before they go and perform, they put oil on their body. They oil their body with a cooking oil, and the smell is actually very nice for the performance. So all these things actually sort of could influence performance. So you are not just like observing from visually, you are observing from the smell. Of course, from what you hear, your ears are very important as a musician. Okay, for example, last week, Dr. Ang, the head of the department, and I, we went to watch a gamelan concert in a performance venue that was like more of a high-class dining area. And the gamelan gamelan normally you will perform in a very outdoor area because the sound is really loud and the sound will travel very far. Okay, so if you are in one village, you can hear the gamelan sound from very far away. So we were quite interested in why they are performing in a very small, high-class dining area. So we were wondering like, oh, will this work? You know, but amazingly, the sound seemed to work. So it also, perhaps the structure of the venue itself could affect the sound, okay, and affect the audience. Okay, I will show you here an example. This is what I watched the last week in Bobo KL. Okay, Bobo KL. Let me show you. Okay. So Bobo KL, if you can see, this is the venue. It looks really big, right? But it's actually really small. Okay, so Bobo KL is more like a dining area that has a very soothing ambience, and it's like have this lighting that will make you feel like, you know, it's very romantic, you know, it's like dining area. But we have gamelan musicians performing there. So the musicians were actually also experimenting whether their performance could actually work in this setting. All right, so then let me just show you some of the performance, part of the performance. Okay, that's one. Another one. Okay, so then as the musician or a critique, right, then you'll be asking the question of why this performance venue? I mean, it's actually on the second and third floor, you know, they only have a staircase. And they actually have to carry these heavy instruments up to the top floor. So the question is, why this venue? So then you might need to figure out who are the sponsor, who are the collaborators, who is actually giving you the space to perform, and maybe this dining Bobo KL wants to like draw some audience for their to increase their sales. So maybe they want to have a collaboration with this group, and they maybe charge a little cheaper, or or there's a negotiation. So that's where they perform. So all these things you will sort of need to find out why are they performing here? Why are they're not performing in big open space? Okay, so things like this, as an observer, you will need to be very open and observant, and also asking many questions. Okay, and finally we figure out, did it work? Did the performance, this kind of performance, work in this venue? It did work, because why? They were talking about how high the roof was. This area, although it's like a shop house, but they have a very high roof. So the music was actually going up and kind of dispersing from above. Okay, so these are the things that as a researcher you will need to be, quite open to figuring out all these different aspects of performance, rather than just, looking at the music and the scale, the rhythm and everything. Okay, because everything ties into the performance. Okay, real life observations. Okay. So a researcher should be sensitive to the observation of the performers and participants of the event. Okay, so you also need to ask, who are these performers? What are they doing? Why are they performing this? Okay, so in some music traditions, there's no distinction between musicians and audience, as they might sing, dance, and play music together. In some traditions, there's a great divide between the music and the audience. Okay, so today, if you see a lot of performances are actually like performance, whereas if you are going for a village performance, it's more interactive. There is interaction between the participants and also the musicians. Okay, it's very free, you can join into dance. But like the one you saw in the one I showed you, the Bobo KL, that's very like audience and performer. There's a great divide. They're just sitting and they are just watching, right? So the researcher should also be clear on who is creating the music and who is performing it. So when you are researching, you need to be thinking of like, are you researching the performance, or are you researching the music? If you're researching the music, then you might be thinking, who is writing the music? It's not the musicians who are composing the music, right? Okay. Then the question is, do the musicians influence the repertoire that is being performed? Okay, let's say we are going to have a concert and this is our selection of songs. Okay, is the music repertoire influenced by the musicians, or is it just dictated by the director or the producer? Okay, so if it's dictated by the director and the producer, then you will need to talk to the director and producer about why this repertoire? Why do we just perform these pieces? Okay, but if to a certain extent, after you interview the director, maybe the director will give you another direction. The director says, oh yeah, we choose this because the musicians they like to play this. Okay lah, so we negotiate a little bit. We have some very traditional, and then we have some very pop, a little bit pop. Yeah, we negotiate because the musicians, they like this. Yeah, then you can find out that the musicians have some kind of influence on the repertoire that is being performed. Yeah, then you need to go and interview the musicians and try to figure out what they're thinking, why they like to perform those songs. Okay, so this research is never very static. From one person to lead you to another person, and to different directions. But at the end of the day, you still need to figure out you have only 6 months or 1 year to collect data. You have to stop at a certain point. That's the end. That's the data you have to collect, and you have to go back and you have to start writing. Although there's so much more you want to know. Okay? So the researchers should be clear about who is creating the music and who is performing it, who is producing the artistic form, who organized the event. Okay, let's say it is who organized the event also depends, also may affect the performance. Who is selling or benefiting from it? Who is the intended or actual audience? So audience is also important because, okay, are we performing to elderly? Are we performing for charity? Are we performing for a huge concert hall? That all actually influences the music that is being performed. Okay, for example, I have an example. Okay, we conclude that music performed by traditional ensemble is based on the performance choices. One need to be clear on how much say the musicians have on deciding the repertoire. Oh, exactly, okay. So is this a cultural association in which members decide what they like to play? Or is this ensemble playing the creation of a composer? Does the composer write for his players, his audience, or he is asserting his own voice? Okay, he doesn't care about the performers. I just want to do artistic work. I just want to do very, very 20th century contemporary works. He doesn't care whether his audience, his musicians like to perform or his audience like to hear, but it's just his own aesthetic, you know? So therefore, one must determine who is the composer and who is the leading the repertoire of the performance. Okay, so one also has to look beyond real life audience. Okay, so if the performance is videotaped and posted online, this will expand the viewership. If photographs are posted online, the musicians may also dress for the international audience too. So if this video they know is going to go online, they may do it differently as compared to some recordings where you cannot record. When you go to the concert hall, they will inform you that you are not allowed to record anything. Okay, as compared to some performances, they like to promote their performance, so they allow you to record and post it on your Facebook. So these two performances may be different. Okay, because let's say if they allow you to record and then post everywhere on your Facebook or your WeChat, then there is the tendency for people to copy them. And then there's people will start copying what they do. So, but another thing, they might want to, they're not popular yet, so they need more audience, then they will allow it. So you need to be wary of this kind of things. Okay, be very alert to what's happening. Okay, I have 3 questions. Is there any questions on the chat? What is somebody asked? Okay, is this new attempt gamelan? Oh, okay. Yeah, so yes, between that is contemporary gamelan. If you see traditional gamelan, it's very slow. And it's normally to play to dancing. And the dance is very slow because the dance is performed in the royal courts. So that tradition now has been taken and now from the courts into the school and into the public setting. Because the courts don't really perform there anymore, now it becomes a public performance. So when it comes to the public also want to express their musical compositions through the gamelan. And so those that you saw are actually new creations, new techniques, new creations. So that is another research project whoever wants to do. Okay. So what else can we continue? In some cases, music accompanies life rituals. The researcher can also document the process of the rituals and how different music is used to accompany these rituals, bringing to life the meaning of the ritual. A researcher can also gather some perception of the audience and the musical performances. Okay, so sometimes we want to find out whether the performance is influenced by the audience. Okay, but it's very hard for ethnographers because we are not really trying to research on the audience. If you want to research on the audience, then that's a different methodology. You need to interview the audience and maybe you need to do some survey questions, okay, if that is the focus of your thesis. But that would lead you to different methodology. So, but maybe we also sometimes we want to know whether the audience actually influenced the performance. If you're interested, maybe you can create some small questionnaire and distribute to the audience. Okay, but that's not really something that ethnographers will be observing, right? So although the researcher's aim is not to examine the audience perception, some idea of how the influence the audience may affect the performance can be important. Okay, demographics such as age of participants, ethnicity, gender, religious affiliation, race, sexuality, and occupation may also influence musical performances. Okay, a quick count or estimate may give us an idea of who is attracted to these performances. So maybe you also may want to know about the audience. So you may make it like take a look and see, oh, is this very young kids coming to watch? Is it very elderly people coming to watch? Or is it just many boys or boys coming, male coming? This we should also find out about our audience. So the goal of observation is not to gather statistical information. So we are not doing a quantitative research where we are trying to gather information about what is the age of the people that come and attend, what is the gender of the people who come and attend. That's not really what we are trying to do. But just an impression to enable the researcher to identify some details about the participant, okay, which is important to the research. Okay, so again, we are not trying to do statistics. You know, we want to do statistics, then the whole focus of your thesis will be about the audience, and you need to study some quantitative research method. But at least getting an impression on who is attending the concert is important. Okay, next one. Let me just check on how many slides I have. Yeah. Okay. Whoa, oh, okay, I better move faster, okay. So participant observation, right? So I think we talked about this last week. Participant observation is what most ethnographers will do. They will also participate rather than just observe. Okay, so in participant observation, we learn the most in-depth information about our community and artistic practice through active participation. So that is the most in-depth way to learn about our culture, is to practice the tradition, right? You need to practice it to really understand it. Just sitting there and observing it, you won't really understand the depth of that kind of performance. Okay, one learns through socializing and acculturation rather than direct instruction. We learn at best by doing and being and watching, listening, tasting, and receiving feedback. Right? So which means this will involve hanging out in settings associated with the research. So you need to hang out, you know, be like, you know, just doing nothing, hanging out, you know. So like living with, working with, laughing with the people. What provides USA? Okay, something is wrong here. Sense of the self and the other. Okay, while a researcher may gather information from interviews and verbal description, it is not until the researcher experiences the cultural phenomenon that shapes the interviewee's description can he or she really understand in depth the interview responses. Right? So when you interview someone, he may tell you, yeah, you know, I'm so inspired by the sound of the thunder or the wave, the waterfall, and that's why I want to write this composition. So he may tell you this, but in your head, yeah. But it's not only until you hear the music or you even play the music that you actually understand what is the composer's feelings. Yeah, okay. So while your interviewee tells you that the children in the village is not interested in learning traditional music, they may not be able to explain why. So your interviewer is like, they'll be telling you, the children, they're just not interested. Yeah. I don't know how to, no. Then, but you, yeah. Every children is the same. They're all not interested in traditional music. But you need to go and figure out these type of children, why they are not very interested. It's different from different children are different. So you may need to actually be there, talk to the children, see what games they're playing, see what they're doing in the village. Then you'll be able to understand that why they are not really interested in those kind of music. Okay, so your experience provides you an embodied experience. So this is embodied means you actually feel it. Okay, you're not just listening and knowing by listening. You feel that, you experience the environment. Entering the field. Okay, so when you go into the field, you need to build relations with your informants. So last week I talked about the gatekeeper. So the gatekeeper is someone who will bring you and give you access to the field. But if you're already a member of the group, it will be easier for you to gain access. If your supervisor has contacts, he or she will also help you to get contacts, because the supervisor is someone that the musicians will trust. So then they will allow you to join their musical performances because they trust the supervisor. Okay. For example, let's say someone wants to interview you, wants to observe you teaching in the school. Someone wants to observe your performance. You are wondering, who is this person? I don't even know her. I don't know what she wants to do with my work. So that's why it's important to have a gatekeeper who can recommend you, and then the people will trust you. Okay, so gathering access is not easy, but once you gain access to these authority figures, you must continue to ensure you provide a good image and representation of yourself in the field. And once you enter the field, you still need to make sure you are respected, and then you can be trusted by the people you are interviewing or you are researching about. Introducing oneself. Okay, if you do not have initial contacts, you will need to begin by attending concerts and gradually developing yourself in entering into the field. Okay, so you might be interested in researching on this performance, but you do not know where to start. Okay, so you can start by going to the concert and then getting to know the people, talking to the people after the concert, introducing yourself, right? And slowly, maybe people will get to know, wow, this person always comes from my concert. Whoa, this person must be very interested. So if they see that you have keen interest, then they will be more open to you coming to observe them. Okay, because not everybody likes to be observed. Just think of yourself. If you are teaching in class and somebody wants to come and observe you teaching, you do not necessarily want everybody to come and observe what you're doing, right? Okay, maybe they could write about you and they could criticize you, and they, you could get a bad reputation. Yeah. So unless they trust you, then they will allow you into the field to research on them. Okay, then do not impose, do not force yourself, okay, but gradually move into the field. Okay, think carefully of how you want to introduce yourself and explain the topic. Express your enthusiasm and commitment in a sincere manner. Okay, the goal is to make the person compelled to contribute their time to help you achieve your goal. So why would the person want to help you achieve your goal? If your attitude is like, I just want to come here and grab information, and then I can go and write my PhD thesis. Yeah, people can feel it, and they will not be that interested to help you. Okay, so once your approach is not proper, the interviewee can decide to ignore you, and this may be influence future potential interviewees. So if the interviewer felt that you were not very respectful, or you did something that was not very honest, then the word will spread to the other people you want to interview that don't accept an interview from this person. Okay, and next, you should be honest. Okay, when you are interviewing, Be honest about your identity as a researcher, as a student. Why are you doing the research? Make sure you disclose your name, what institution you are studying from, and what are your objectives. Okay, some students may overemphasize their credentials and academic affiliation. Okay, please do not boast now. Okay, do not say, oh yeah, I'm graduate from here. I can play very well, and you don't need to boast about yourself. Okay, so while interviewers may have a better perception of the students, they may also be put off by the approach to you to introduce themselves. Okay, be a little bit humble about yourself. But of course, if you can play the instrument quite well, slowly you need to let them know, right? If they know, wow, you can actually play that, then maybe they might be more interested in you. But you do not need to show off at the beginning, right? Okay, so if you're researching a poorer income group, right? For example, you are going to research a very poor village. Try not to come and dress in expensive Levi jeans and Adidas shoes. Okay, don't show that you are, like really rich. The impression of a rich student may deter the interviewers from accepting you. So even the impression you give, the people are like, okay, wow, this one is from rich family. Maybe I don't think I want to give you that much information, right? Being able to adapt your living situation to the interviewers so that a big divide is not distinct may help the others to allow you into the family. All right, so trying to understand the people and be more together with them rather than create this big divide. Okay, I'm the interviewer, you are the interviewee, and yeah, that might create less information for you together. Okay, next one, consent. Okay, consent is important, especially in university now, in university ethics. Any research ethics, you need to get consent when you interview someone, when you record someone, you should ask for consent. Okay, so prior to conducting research, one should obtain consent from the organizations responsible for the musical groups, including the leader of the ensemble, the village head, or the department that oversees the groups and associations. So if you're researching an ensemble, you should ask for first the permission from the leader of the ensemble to record video and to document whatever. Okay, you need to ask for permission. If you're going to a school, of course, you need the consent from the school. You need proper documentation. Okay, so if you are going to a village and you are just going to observe the music of musical group, you're going to record a musical group, that's not enough. You first need to go and talk to the leader of the village first and ask for permission to research on the music in the village. Okay, so in US, the researchers associated with federally funded universities may have developed protocols for obtaining permission from participants, which have to be approved by the university's institutional review board. So in US, it's very strict. All the students actually need to go for a course about ethics and then ethics in research. So you actually need to pass the course before you are allowed to start gathering data. Yeah, in US is very strict. In Malaysia is semi, I mean they are strict, but they are not as strict as in US. Okay, if a researcher wants to deposit materials in a repository, they have to obtain appropriate release forms from participants as required by the archive. So you need to get consent to give this information to the museum or to the whatever archive. There has to be some kind of signed consent that the music you recorded can be put into the museum or even can be published online. Okay, so copies of the consent form should be returned to the culture bearers. Okay, so this actually helps to protect you and also to protect the musician. Because let's say you took the music and, oh my God, I'm forgetting, so now I'm scared. You took the music and then you publish it on YouTube. Maybe the people might not be happy to have their music all over YouTube. So they might come back and ask you why you did that. So well, you need to be careful. Although I can say that not like 100%. So it's hard. Okay, today it's hard because everybody goes on Facebook, everybody posts on YouTube. It's really hard to control now. So this is something we need to talk about. Okay. Yeah, I think this is all repeated. Be careful, then to introduce yourself, be sensitive to the participants. If they don't want to sign the agreement, maybe you need to understand why they don't want to sign the agreement. Maybe they don't know who you are. They are afraid that after they sign the agreement, something will happen to them. Yeah, so you need to explain to them properly what they are signing. Okay, so when you participate in recording a ritual or events, be sure that the head of event knows who you are. Okay. Researchers should require consent before you. Okay, recording interview. Okay, so when you interviewing someone, please tell the interviewer that you are going to record them. Don't quietly record them. It is not very nice to do that. Okay. For example, let's say informal interviews is okay. You just record and you inform. I'm going to record you. That's okay. But suddenly, right, when you are, let's say, in a context where it's very informal, and then suddenly something very interesting happens, and you feel like I need to record this. Then, but you're not going to like just like suddenly bring out your recorder and record, because it will change the whole situation, the natural situation that's going on. So then you're figuring out, should I or should I not bring out a recorder? If I don't bring out a recorder, then I won't record this valuable information. So that's when you need to decide. Okay, you need to decide. I'm not going to secretly like record them. That is not correct. Okay, but if you ask permission, it's really weird. Because suddenly they started singing, and then you say, oh, can I record? It's really weird. Okay, so you need to decide on what you want to do, how you're going to behave during the time. Okay, so here is an example of a consent form from the US. So I did participate in a research where I researched university students on what kind of music that they like to listen to as Asian Americans. So this is a copy of the consent form. It's very detailed. Like we have to explain like who we are. Lily Chen and Claire Chan from UCLA is conducting a research, and then it's very detailed to explain what we are doing. Okay, then we get the signature of the study participant. But in other countries, we have to negotiate now. Okay, it's not 100% strict, but we should at least get consent. This is my consent form when I was doing my PhD. I also had to follow the US regulations. So I actually had to create a form that explains about my research project. And I need to get the agreement. Okay, I certified. I have been told of the possible risks involved in the project, and that I have been given satisfactory answers to my inquiries concerning the project procedures. So this is like something you need to read out to your interviewees, but it's a little bit weird, right? I think it's a little weird. So you have to find ways to make it not weird. Okay. So then you need to get the signature of the participant. Okay, so I will show you an example where it becomes weird. Okay, let me show you this example. Okay, so this is my YouTube video. I'm a YouTuber. Okay, so please subscribe to my channel. My channel is Claire Ching. Yeah. Okay, so I'll show you where this becomes weird. When asking for consent becomes really weird. Okay. So it's a recording project. We have some budget to record the music of this group of people, but we need to get consent from them to release their music to us. So the consent is normally in written form. So I'm just talking about
Building your business online? Go to Wix.com and get your site up and running with a tailored.
Yeah, I used to carry.
So this is
We bought some water and buns for the villagers. The first thing we did was to meet Bah Seliba, Batin Kampung, or the head of the village. Before we recorded the musicians, it was very important that we explain to them why we were recording their music and what we would do with their recordings. This is the ethics clearance that is required from each research, and all the musicians involved had to sign an agreement form. I explained about the payment and asked that if the recordings had issues later, we could come back and re-record the music.
So lepas kami merakam lagu anda, kami cuba akan mengemas kinikan so dalam satu album music dan harap kami boleh upload online dekat internet dan orang ramai boleh dengar lagu-lagu ini. Tapi dengan nama-nama semua. Saya akan tulis nama-nama semua penyanyi, nama-nama semua lah, ada nama itu. So sekarang saya nak minta kebenaran untuk membuat benda itu lah.
But Ajis then translated what I said in Malay language to Semai language so that the elderly lady musicians could understand. Basiliba then gives me the list of names of musicians that they had written down carefully. It actually slipped my mind that there was a possibility that some of the musicians would not be able to write, and I actually forgot to bring the thumbprint pad for them to stamp their fingerprints on it. So eventually we got the musicians' children to get their moms to put a sign on the paper of their names. And for this task, student assistants are actually really helpful, and here is Jenny helping me get the signs from the musicians.
Saya dulu maklum pada malam sebab benda ni saya pun tak boleh cakap mungkin dapat ni orang kata masa dia kata on the best tak adalah tapi apa yang boleh saya buat dalam majlis ini apa yang saya tunjuk tu benda ni memang betul dengan ayat satu masuk saya dengan ayah saya tapi itu saya tak terjamin lah benda ni ada kita perlu ada baik ada tak baik saya pun tak jamin jangan takut yang kami buat ni bagus cukup aktif tak ada itu saya tak berjamin tapi kalau tengok besok dah setiap proses apa semua kalau tak bagus boleh datang tak ada masalah.
Patricia has set up her Sony mirrorless camera.
Alright, so that was the first stage where we did the ethics clearance. So later you can ask me questions. It's actually very, very fun, very weird to ask the elderly to sign forms. And then actually, some of them actually couldn't write. And then maybe some of them resist from signing the form because they may be embarrassed for you to find out they actually cannot write. So these are the things that you need to understand and find out ways to solve this problem. So eventually my colleague, Dr. Patricia, told me to just ask them to put some sign. They don't need to sign their name. they can just use a pen and write something, just to show that they have signed, they acknowledge the form. Okay, and another way also we can bring the thumbprint, use the thumbprint and put the thumbprint there. So that's another way. So these are some of the issues that you might face in the field, and it's also actually really weird to do this technical writing thing in the village, but we still need to do it because eventually if we get into trouble for publishing the music online without the permission, we could get into trouble. Okay, this is later. Okay, you can find me at Claire Chi. This is my YouTube channel, Claire Chi. I actually have a lot of YouTube videos that I did on my field work. These videos are done mainly after COVID-19 because I started to learn how to do vlogging from 2 years just sitting at home, right? I started to learn how to do this by myself. And when I go to the field, I actually do a lot of vlogging now. Okay, let's continue. How is it now? 11. Okay, let me sorry, I want to give me a moment. Take a break first. I need to inform the department about something. Give me a minute. Okay, so let's continue. So that's the consent form. And okay, rapport. Rapport is your relationship with the researcher and with the practitioners. Okay, so you need to sort of get to know and establish trust with your informants or the musicians that you interview. Okay, so some researchers may spend many months establishing relationships prior to beginning the more focused field work. Okay, rapport should be sincere and reflect a genuine relationship as much as possible. The researcher should also foster rapport by expressing gratitude, compassion, and understanding, and sharing the work or benefits from your research. So after you do your research, you should go back to the field and give photos, like wedding photos, give back to your culture bearers, share some of the videos that you recorded, share some of the music that you recorded back to the people that you have researched on. Okay, so some ethnomusicologists choose controversial topics such as social justice and gender inequalities. conflict, racism, economic and political injustice, and other issues. Okay, so if you are researching some very controversial music, maybe sometimes you do not agree with the culture bearers' views. You do not agree with them. You do not agree with their motives for musical performances. But however, the researcher needs to remain neutral and present their perspective with empathy and respectfully. So when you write about these musicians, you need to remain neutral and try to write it from the perspective of the musician. Okay, do not give a bad impression of the people that you are researching. Okay, even if it's something that you disagree about, you need to present it from the perspective of why the musicians have this idea. Okay. So during fieldwork, you may encounter inequality in gender perception, racist jokes, male patriarchy, cultural superiorism, and many others. So when you're in the field, sometimes you may also experience like jokes that are very racist. Maybe you also, the way you are treated by the men or the women, or the male is not what you like. There could be, hopefully there's not some kind of harassment. Maybe you might experience it. So you need to be very careful when you are in the field also, right? How do you do participant observation? Okay, I think I kind of repeated this again. This is like hanging out again. Okay, so here is something different. During field work, one usually needs to stretch beyond their comfort level. So you may not always be very comfortable when you are researching. Sometimes you may feel unhappy, lonely, okay? And then you may feel that you find it very boring when you're in the field, nothing is happening. Sometimes you will feel lonely because you are far away from your family. And then maybe sometimes you have to stay up very late to see a ritual. Sometimes in the village might happen some kind of people go crazy, hysteria. Okay, sometimes when you're waiting for this performance, suddenly cancel. So you will experience a lot of emotion. You could experience emotional problems when you're in the field. That is something that you will need to handle by yourself. You need to have friends who support you. You need to have good friends around you who support you and help you get through the field work time. Okay, because being far away from your home, your family, your friends is not easy. Okay? However, one must always maintain a positive outlook to their research. Okay, for example, if something gets cancelled and you're so unhappy because that is the thing you wanted to record, but you have to, think beyond. Maybe there's another opportunity for you to record that may be even more valuable. Okay. Okay, so I will just explain to you. For example, I wanted to record the wedding ritual of these people. So there are 7 rituals. I want to record all the 7 rituals, right? But I cannot always get all the seven rituals. So they told me that the event is going to happen at 10 a.m. So when I arrived, they told me, oh, it's over, it's done. And I said, what? Why did you inform me, right? Then they said, they also don't know because suddenly the leader decided that he changed his mind. He said, let's do it early. So Then I said, why didn't you text me? Why didn't you call me? I was in my head, I was thinking like that, right? But I try not to show that I'm very disappointed because I really wanted to capture that event. Try not to be disappointed, okay? And then sometimes people in the village, they don't really, text you all the time. It's not the culture for them to like, not like us in this modern society. They won't like text you, immediately and tell you, oh, come here now, So eventually, yeah, okay, it's okay. I was not happy, okay? But if you can see from my YouTube video that some of the rituals were missing, okay? But however, miraculously, one day I just got a phone call to invite me to attend a wedding, and they told me to specifically come for the Truth Pali event because they knew that I was not happy. They knew, but they didn't say anything. Then suddenly one day they call me, we are having this event, come, right? So we need to be quite positive in the way we behave and try not to be too disappointed when you don't capture something, okay? So despite the challenges, participant observation is always very rewarding, especially one day when the culture bearers invite you to help inspire their children to learn music. Okay, let me see. I will continue tomorrow because tomorrow I want to talk about technology in the field, what kind of equipment you can use to record in the field. And also tomorrow I want to talk about how you're going to analyze the data. Okay, so let me see. I want to stop at 11:30 so that we have some time for Q&A. So just continue a bit more. Okay, so when videoing in the field, during rehearsals, you need to make decisions need to be made on who plays which part, researchers participate in a range of activities that will provide them with general knowledge. Okay, if you're researching a performance genre, do not only come, oh gosh, this is all repeated, hang out during the rehearsal sessions. Okay, what happens during research, let's say rehearsal sessions, you can actually understand why maybe at first the program is like this, the music program is like this. But then suddenly they change the music program, they swap the pieces, okay, or they swap the performer, they change the performer. All these things will be happening during the rehearsal processes. And maybe even the process of making the decision will inform you something about the concert. Okay, so if you are just going to watch the concert, you don't really learn very much, okay, except what happens during the performance. Okay, for example, decisions can be made on who plays which part. Okay, maybe they say, okay, you are going to do the solo, you are going to do this part. So these decisions you should observe. Okay, which piece to play first, what to include and what to delete. Okay, after they do the run through for 1 hour, then they feel that the concert is very boring. I mean, it doesn't have its up and down. So maybe they will move some of the pieces to different places so that they create the dynamics in performance. Okay, normally in performance, you cannot do more than 1.5 hours because your audience will start getting impatient. Okay, who chose them? Is the leader central to making the decision? Do the performer's voice play a role in determining the repertoire? These are points of interest that are important for your research. Okay, you may also engage in activities with the performers and musicians. Okay, so sometimes you may get a ride home together with a musician, and then when you are in the car with a musician, he might tell you some stories about his compositions or how he practiced how he rehearsed. So that may also give you a new perspective to your research. Okay, so this is when informal settings also inform you. This one are you ready? Okay, research questions. Okay, so when you go into the field, of course, you already have your proposal, you already have your research problem, you also have your research questions. Okay, do not limit your questions to just your proposal research questions. Okay, but of course, be reminded what your research questions are so you don't forget. Okay, so constantly remind yourself of your research aims and questions. However, do not trap yourself into thinking that those are the information you seek for your research. Okay, oftentimes, your research might divert into another angle. You may need to revise your research problem and questions after you have acquired your findings. Yeah, so actually it happens many times. Many times when I go into the field, suddenly, oh, my research aims change. Then my research problem changes. It happens. This is something common. Nothing is fixed in research, but of course you have to stop at a specific point of time. Okay, what you write in your thesis will be fixed to the specific point of time, but things will change after you leave. Right? So your research is only during the time limit that you have. Because after that, things can change. Okay, are you welcome? So you also need to assess and evaluate whether people are happy with you or not. So always be reflective, thinking of your behavior and action in fieldwork. Stop sometimes to check on yourself. Ask the gatekeeper, ask your informants, try to check on yourself. Okay, sometimes you may feel people do not like you around. Okay, but do not be too sensitive now, right? You may feel unwanted or you are disturbed by you are disturbing the natural flow of events. Sometimes you may be oversensitive. You may like, oh yeah, they don't like me here. Oh, okay, I will disturb the event. Okay. Yeah, you don't need to be oversensitive, but you still need to be careful. While one may feel this way, the researcher cannot be overtly conscious and careful. Go with your instincts, be reflective, and mostly be kind and humble. Okay, Deval and Valen states, a good field worker must react to the going-ons with sensitivity and discretion. Put aside your agenda and engage with the events going on. Assist the community organizers. Try to behave and understand what is going on around you respectfully. Okay, let's see. All right, let me see. I'm going to end soon, and then I will open for Q&A. Let me just show you some other videos that I have to show you about some fieldwork experiences. Okay, so this is an event, the Eve of Hari Moyang, leading to the real event. Okay, normally people will only go and watch this event. Hari Moyang, they will only watch this. But I went to watch the rituals before the event. And many things actually happen before the event. Just show you a little bit.
In this video, I'm Claire. Hello everyone, for always welcome and about to take the second exit to the roundabout that leads me to the island. I'm about to cross Sungai Langat, the river that divides the Carey Island from the mainland. So once I cross over, then I'm in Carey Island.
So I'm in Carey Island already. So I'm here for the Ari Moyang ritual, which is Ancestral Day. It's going to be held tomorrow. Wow, it's shaky, lots of bumps. Well, so Ari Moyang is going to be held tomorrow, but I'm here for this evening because this evening there is also an important ritual where the Mameri actually offer gift offerings to their ancestors on their altars.
On the far left is Jugra Hill, the sacred mountain where Moyang Keramat, the Mahmeri's guardian and protector, resides. Some of the Mahmeri's ancestors are buried in this hill too. The signboard on the left directs us to the Culture and Handicraft Center developed by the state government. After driving through miles of all palm estates, I reached Kampung Sungai Bumbun. I head to Tompok Topo, the culture and arts center of the village, managed by the Unyan family. Upon arrival, Masna Unyan, the head of the center, walks me through the garden pathways between her extended family's houses. I reached the house where her extended families are making ketupat by weaving nipah leaves into diamond-shaped containers and filling them with glutinous rice. The Mahmeri children receive indirect enculturation of the Mahmeri culture of weaving, cooking and others as they sit on their elders while they work.
Okay. Ni bunga item, ni bunga serai, tali angin, ni keris, ni bunga gombel.
Bunga bomba.
Ini bunga gombel.
Adik! After Diana decorates the altar, Masna comes and checks on it. She asks Diana to add some fresh flowers to it. Here is an example of the enculturation process again.
Tambah lagi bunga raya.
Okay, so from here you can observe that although the young generation decorates the altar this way, the elder generation also sometimes comes and gives extra information like, okay, you should have this thing. So if you were just coming to photograph the altar, you would not see these kind of processes.
Supaya nampak berseri-seri.
Seri-seri meriah. Ini apa yang ada di sini ya? Itu
telur, itu kuning, merah, putih.
Yeah, so the details of all this information, like what is here, you need to have a notebook to jot down the few notes. If not, you cannot remember what is the name of all these things that you see in front of you.
Itu biasa lah.
See all these details, what is the name of all these things? You need your few notebook to jot.
ada biskut, orange, ikan goreng,
Itu untuk panggang ni.
panggang. Ini ada rokok. The balai, or open-air stage, where the Mahmeri gather for various events, are decorated with bunga moyang, or moyang flowers, woven from young nipah leaves cut from the nearby mangrove forest. The bunga moyang is representatives of the animals and plants
that live in the surrounding forest. Bunga mayang. Masna just taught me a few seconds ago. Okay. Oh. Oh.
Yeah, so, I mean, although you cannot leave the intricate ones, you can still do the basic ones.
Okay, boleh lah. Uh-oh.
Ai, dia hư này. Thì một cái nó hơn là ok, sao đi.
Aning. Aning. I'm at Kampung Sungai Bumbun. Tonight is the night before Ari Moyang, which is the ancestral day. So the Mahmeri are now giving offerings of food to their ancestors, and they are saying prayers at the altar. They are asking for assistance and help in their daily life.
Kemudian ada yang sini, tahur kuncuk tidak ada nanti ada mau dah, kubit bagai kalau kop ke ini gini moyang kan nanti ke kubit ke yuk leh kampungan neng tah tempat asahan, yuk tempat asahan. Ye biar cerak sekolah ke. Biar cerak baca mana baca sekolah ya biar kop. Isu ada. Nah, ini biar cerak. Dah.
Okay, so this is interesting because they are actually buying these things from the Chinese store to burn to their ancestors. So, yeah. This is also very interesting because this is from the Chinese store. Yeah, so if you did not, you just went for the main performances, you wouldn't have realized that the people are actually adapting to the what is ever is available. Yeah, this is easy to buy from the shops. Rather than burn the things they used to burn previously, they can just buy this from the shop, and it's kind of symbolic of what they actually want to offer to their ancestors. So you can see that the people are just very practical, very realistic. So these are the things that you will get to observe if you are going to do, you are doing ethnography. All right, so I will end here. You can watch more at my channel, Claire Ching, and let's open for discussion. Open the floor, open to discussion. Okay, so anyone wants to share some experiences on maybe you want to know what decision to make, you encounter something difficult and you want to discuss it here? Yeah, please, time for you to share with the others. Okay, who is doing fieldwork now? I think Ting Ting is doing fieldwork now. Any difficulties that you encounter that you want to share or discuss here?
Hi, Prof. I'm going well so far, the field work, so there's no problem.
Okay, oh, there's no problem, means there's a problem. And I hope that you do have asked for permission to record and get some written permission, sign forms when you are recording and doing field work, because that's something that you need to know. Okay. How about the others? Some of you are still not in the field yet, but maybe you have been experiencing just going to informal chatting, hanging around. Anyone wants to share some experience? Let me ask who is Note 20 Ultra. Who is that? Oh, the one Note 20 Ultra. Syrian, who is that? From Ningxia.
Hui Wen, maybe. Hui Wen.
Oh, Hui Wen. Okay, Hui Wen. Well, you are not in the field yet, right? So, do you have any encounters yet in the field? No. Okay.
Sorry, Prof. I'm in my journey to Malacca now.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I'm in the train, so I can't speak too much. It's a little bit weird. Sorry.
Okay. Anyone else? How about Ningna? Ningna, you went to the Buddhist temple, right? I think you will have a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Yes. Any challenges?
I'm searching a religious music orchestra. Yeah, as you know, Buddhist music orchestra. This is a group in China. It's very popular everywhere because, as you know, in China, many Buddhist space. So they not only need the chants singing. Now they need some orchestra company playing in the performance or in some process. So I want to know, I wonder if I should just focus on their musical behavior, music contents, music melody. How can they performance on the stage? How can they performance in the daily class, morning class, or evening class? Or should I also research some their religious life, everyday life, monks life?
Yeah.
I want to know this performance is only the religious behaviors or only the performance in the temple.
Yeah, so you might need to understand their life. And also you may need to differentiate between when they are doing for ritual, is it different from when they are doing for the stage? Yeah.
I want to know this is their religious behaviors or only their performance, only their work.
Yeah. So
this is I want to know.
You probably need to spend time there because you can't really ask. If you ask, they wouldn't even know. You need to. It's your perception as an observer. You can't ask them the question. You can't ask them, are you different when you perform for stage and different for ritual? Because it's not something that the musicians will tell you, it's for the academicians to find out actually.
In 3 years ago, I asked a monk, but a monk is very angry.
Yeah.
They're not very happy to talk about this question.
Yeah, but actually, so when you are recording music in the hall, right? It is sacred music. Are you allowed to?
No, they sing performance to the public because they do some religious behaviors. Some people, also some prayer people in the temple. So I can record photograph, but I will ask the leaders before the behavior.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about in China how strict they are. At the university, do you need to give them have a form ready for the monks to sign?
Yes.
You have. Okay.
Yes, I must make some form or some table or some consent with this progress. Then I will report to the leader. As you know, the temple has a leader. We call them 住持. The leader monks in the temple. So if they say yes, I will go into the temple. I will report the time, maybe 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month. I will report it before.
Yeah. So yeah, you need to have your own organization log. So
yes, make all form and the tables before the behavior.
Yeah. Okay, so let's open up the question to everybody. Sometimes, how do you manage your data? Because we have so many photos, we have so many videos. How do you actually manage your photographs? Do you actually label every photograph that you take? Oh, this question is open to everybody.
I use the DV or some iPhone. iPhone is very convenient.
Yes. True, but every photo that you take, do you actually write down what is in the photo? Like this photo is about playing the flute. This photo is playing the drum. So that when you are searching for the photo, you can search for it very fast. Okay, let me ask the others. Who wants to answer this question? Mauye, do you have problems with organizing your photos? Okay, Mauye is not there. How about Mu Yun, Cha Mu Yun? I haven't seen you before, I think. Cha Mu Yun. Do you have problems?
Yeah.
How do you organize your photos?
老师，我这边有点卡，您能听到吗？
可以听。对。OK。
可以听到，可以听到。这个。
Yeah, you can type in the chat box how you organize your photos. How about who else? Who else? My students are. Suching, have you started taking photos?
Hi, doctor. I'm going to take some region and performance photos, but now I haven't get the consent.
Okay, right. And again, you have so many 100 photos that you're going to take and 100 videos that you're going to take. One day you may want to search for a specific video, and it's very hard for you to find it because you have so much data. So how do you manage all your photos? Let me ask who else. Yeah.
Maybe I have some category, maybe some live photos and some study photos and some work photos.
Yes.
I have organized them.
Specific way to label it, like do you label every photo, like the dates and what is happening in the photo?
Yes, maybe try to the background photo. If I print that, I maybe write some times and some concept of the day what happened. I make the
Okay, let me ask the rest whether, okay, I just showed you, right? The question is, you know, when you have so many photos in your phone, I mean, I'm just showing you one small part of the phone, and yeah, each photo is different, but I'm looking for a specific photo. I will have to open one by one to find that photo. But let's say I label this already catching drunken guy. So I know this is drunken guy, so I will quickly capture that photo if I had labeled it. But you know, I didn't label, there are so many photos. So how about the others? You're having the same problem? Okay, let me ask. Oh, are you having the problem of finding a photo? Well, most of you are not really in field work yet, so maybe you haven't experienced the problem yet. You see how many external hard drives I have? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so many. I can't find where is it. Okay, yes. Anyone, how about Li Chin? Li Chin is already out in doing some field work. Are you labeling all your photos and videos?
Hello, Prof.
Yes.
Yes, I'm now. Last and 2 weeks I'm observation for the repertoire and the rehearsal for the Chinese orchestra. I take a many picture and a little video, and in my home I maybe writing our the observation the detail, and I also use a classification for our the photos and videos. For the rehearsal, I put the different orchestra the rehearsal to in the in this document, and put the videos in a document. Yes.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Manage your data. I'm so disorganized. I have so many.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 2 phones. Yes, to take a picture, look the videos. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think we need to learn from each other. If there's a software that can help us to label the photos, I'm very happy. Maybe like the software just detect, oh, this is wedding. Then it's easy. You don't have to go one by one and label them.
Yeah.
How about others?
Perfect. Maybe we can storage the videos and photos in Baidu network disk. The storage is very large in China.
Yeah, the cloud in the online, right?
Yeah.
Online also problem. It's not the online, it's the how many 100 photos we have to manage, and do we actually label all of them? Yeah, that's the question. So Mingna asked, does every photo need to record detailed information? Are these photos to be attached to the thesis? Well, it's best that you record what is in the photo, because you never know which photo you may need in your thesis. Maybe out of 100 photos, there's one photo that you really need, and you can't find it. So if you have labeled everything, then it's easy to find. But the question is, do we have the time to do all that? Yeah. Well, it will help you to be more organized. That's why I talk about metadata. Metadata is actually the details of the photo. In the old days, people actually have details of the photo. I'll just show you here metadata. This is metadata. You actually talk about where, what time, specific information about the video or the photos. But of course, this is in the old days where they cannot take so many photos and they cannot take so many videos. So they can take their time to write down for every photo. But let's talk about us. Is that we need to figure out how we can manage because we have 100,000 photos in our phones. Yeah, something that we as researchers need to figure out how to handle. Yeah.
Prof?
Yes.
Hi. Yes. In our today the lecture beginning, I have a question about for the truly from our observation from our field work. I want to in the early I want to ask you how we can make sure our observation the information is truly is a true, yeah. But according yes, according to your lecture, I think our question is answered.
How you the truth is based on the person who is watching.
Yeah. Because
yeah.
yes, because in our the observation in the in the rehearsal, because before our going to their group, they maybe introduce mine for the members. So but I joined the orchestra the group. The many member focus on the kindness, focus on the so I think maybe they talked maybe they told me the information I think maybe not really truly, yes.
No, maybe they told you what you want to know.
Yeah.
But as you get to know them better, then
yeah.
The truth will come out.
Yeah.
And the truth is still based on how you see it.
Yeah. So I need to join this group to see many the detail and to observation. Yes, the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So okay, we once say think it's very difficult to participate in a site. Difficult. I have contacted routine student at conservatoire. They have workshop activities. One of my activities for me I can join. When I told them my identity, after that the student ignore me. yeah. So sometimes they oh, I don't want researcher. We don't want them to come and watch us. Yeah, because yeah, not everybody wants to be observed. So how? Maybe either you have to find another group or you have to slowly show that you are very interested in them. Go every time they have performance, go and talk to them, busybody, just be stalker. Then after a while, they okay, come, you know. Maybe you need some time, or maybe you need to change. It depends on you, yeah. So, so, okay, so I also want to share one experience, I think before we end. So I had this project where we were trying to teach the children some traditional music, okay? So not really traditional music, we just took them to the town and asked them to go to the shops and interview the shop owner. Let's say it's a watch shop, and then interview the owner who sell the shop the watches, and then find out the story of the shop owner. Then when they come back, they need to find the sound they heard from the shop, like ding dong, or something. Then they create the story and the music using the shop sounds. Okay, so we ask them so that they are recording living heritage. So they don't really like to do it, and then they don't have idea how to create a performance from the shop. Then later one day, as I was driving them to the town, I heard them doing K-pop. What's that song? They love the K-pop, and then they can dance very well to the K-pop. Then eventually I decided, why don't you use the K-pop music and create a music from the watch shop? And eventually, yeah, they were very interested. So they said Rolex, all using the K-pop song. So if I didn't drive them in my car and I didn't hear them singing K-pop, I wouldn't have known that, hey, this is what they like. So maybe they can adapt this song with the story of the shop. So this is where the informal experience will help you to understand your participant. Yeah. Okay, so tomorrow I want to talk about technology that we can use in the field. What are the equipment we can use in the field? And also, how are you going to analyze your data after you have thousands photos, 1,000 videos, 1,000 interviews? How are you going to analyze this data? Okay, so thank you very much. I will see all of you tomorrow. Have you all filled in the Google form, the attendance form?
Yes, I have submitted.
Yes. So, Siren, maybe you will give a certificate if they have attended.
Yeah, Prof. Wait, have the link. Approve.
Yeah.
Okay, Prof. Where I can see the Google Form link.
Yeah, it's right at the top of the page. Okay, can I take a photo of everybody? So this is another form of attendance recording all your attendance. Please, can you switch on open your camera so we can take a photo? Okay. Sherry, Chino, Maria is not there, I think. Okay, we'll take 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, see you all tomorrow then. Have a good lunch. Bye-bye.